Okay, we're live. We're live. So yeah, Corey, we're going
right.
right now. We're live. Welcome. It's great, Anthony. We've got you joining us here today. This is awesome.
Oh, thanks.
It's usually
Thanks so
just
much
me
for
and
having
Corey.
me. Yeah,
It's fun to
I
have
appreciate it.
a new perspective. We're gonna try this. Do we like that better?
Oh, much better.
Okay, good. Yeah, I felt like we were a little too close. Not that
Yeah.
I don't love seeing you guys up close.
Social distancing is virtual as well as in person. So now we're a little
Exactly.
bit more compliance, which is, I'm all about compliance. I don't know about you.
Exactly. This is much
Compliance.
better.
When I think of that word, I think of Corey.
Speaking of compliance, have we ever seen compliance in a job description and thought that that was a really good thing to put in a job description if it's not a compliance job?
Well, that word compliance really puts a spin on it, because the job descriptions that I've seen, and I spent some time looking at them, they all seem like they're compliant with each other. If we use the term literally, they all seem like they're stamped out of the same cookie cutter. Maybe there's a company that I haven't heard of underneath that runs a SaaS platform, and you just send all of your job descriptions there through their API, and it comes out looking precisely the same. It's just that the email address at the bottom is different. I don't know if that really happens.
I like to call it a copy pasta, where you just copy from your competitor and then you paste it in and you add your own stuff. You add your own lines of spaghetti in this thing, and you end up with copy pasta, something that just nobody wants to eat and was never appealing in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been in so many aspects of job descriptions. I mean, you guys have replied to job descriptions. You've posted job descriptions. You've hired from job descriptions. So, I mean, the perspective that you guys have, I think, is critical to people. And right now, I think all three of us posted something about how hard it is to hire. And I posted something earlier today. I don't know if the two of you agree with it, but the job description to me is really the front door of your company. And if it looks like every other front, if you like track homes and you want to live in a track home neighborhood and you're not interested at all in having a house that, is unique in any way, shape, or form, that's fine. Copy pasta your job description, because your company's not going to stand out. Your job's not going to stand out. Nothing's going to be unique.
I don't even a tract home. I think it's a hallway of a 70s hotel.
I like it.
I actually, I'll disagree. I think it's the McMansion of the internet, where they try packing so much bad architecture into the biggest lot they can afford. There's like 6 feet of easement around the house. There's no yard. There's nothing. It's just, let's pile as much stuff into this, foundation as possible. Yeah. That's how I feel. I don't think it's a 70s hallway. I think it's a McMansion.
Yeah, I've looked at some, and there is a format to them. It's a short intro. I'm looking at one on my other monitor way up here, and let's see. Exceptional, disruptive company. That's the very first paragraph. It's a high-level view of the company. Of course, you're going to disrupt an industry, even if you're making widgets in a widget industry. It's a disruptor. Looking for exceptional, experienced, world-class, buzzword-filled talent. And then key responsibilities. Bonus if you have this. Send an email to so-and-so. Done. Could have been copied from 1,000 other places. Clearly, here's what I tell people. Don't write it from the perspective of the spreadsheet of skills that you want, because that seems to be every single one of them. Write it with a little bit of life, just a little bit of life for what you think the candidate is that you actually want. And there's just so much of this. It's a deep topic, but after looking at a few of these, I really want to take a sheet of sandpaper and go sand my eyeballs.
You ever meet someone like really great at a party or at a networking event, and they seem so sociable? You're drinking, you're laughing, you're having a good time, and then it's like, oh, so tell me about what you do. And then suddenly you're bombarded with all of this jargon and all of this boring nonsense. To me, that's how job descriptions are. It's like, oh yeah, your company sounds really cool. Tell me about it. And then suddenly it's like, robot mode engaged, must use jargon, must speak technical, use big dime words, whatever. It's so dumb that a human being would come up with this kind of language to describe something that you want a good person to come and do. Like, why would you invite someone to a party with like the worst possible invitation? I just don't understand why it is this way. And then secondly, every time I read a bad job description, I'm like, I wish I could meet the person who wrote the first one, like 10, 12 iterations ago. Like, who's the person who planted this seed and put it online?
Well, I think that's the ironic part, because it probably wasn't one person, like the hiring manager is going between meetings, and in 2 minutes, he or she scratches out, I don't have time for this. I really need, hands it off to someone else. They put some bullet points in front of those, put HR and legal text around it, and they put it out the door, and that's the role. God, I just don't have time to deal with this. But I have a lot of time to get wasted in an interview cycle later for the same thing.
Well, and I have a lot of time to complain about how hard it is to hire. I have a lot of time to complain about how I don't have enough people. I have a lot of time to complain about I'd get these projects done if only I could find people to fill these roles. But you don't have a lot of time to, write a good party invitation. To Anthony's point.
The job description sucks, but at least we're getting no good applicants, right?
We're making up for it with a lot of volume.
So I like to tell companies, like, the front page of your website is like your front door, but to a job candidate, to someone who has any interest in working with you, the job description is the front door, like you said. And it's really like your first marketing experience or encounter for a candidate. And you are marketing to them because you want them to work for you. Now, would you want to work for a robot or for someone who can't think for themselves? Of course not. And behind the job description, there are human beings. But for some reason, we got it in our heads that this weird artifact that's just so boring and not actually describing what the person will be doing. It, like, job descriptions never actually describe the job. I just don't understand, like, when will a hiring manager have that realization of like, oh yeah, this is why we're not getting the people that we want, because the people who encounter this, like the young, hip, smart, whatever developer, they're not going to be turned on by this really boring corporate description. And yet so many small companies use terrible corporate job descriptions. One reason you want to work for a small company is so you don't have that corporate experience. But then you read the job description and you're like, is this going to be like every other job? I think I'll just skip it.
So let me kind of bring up something different here. Sponsored by Peter Jungle, by the way. Can you do that again, Anthony? You got to make sure we get our corporate sponsors in. All right, thank you. So who should be writing the job description in your opinions? Let's say the company is a small company. They can't really afford to hire somebody, from a marketing perspective and go through all of that. Who is the most logical person within the organization to either write or at least have a say in what goes into that job description? And secondly, let's say the company does have the ability to market it. Do you want them to, let's not say add a lot of jargon, but should they be really marketing? Should they really be selling? Should they, be advertising that? Or should it be, this is really what a day in the life is going to look like, sort of thing?
I don't know why a hiring manager can't pick up a phone and hit the record button and just say, hey, I need someone to do this thing. The job is hard. We have these kinds of problems, and just talk like a human being, and then post that online, right? And then have someone just take the transcript of that video and throw a job title on top and stick that on LinkedIn and say, watch the video, you can actually meet the hiring manager and see what this hiring manager says about the role. Like, just talk to the person. It doesn't have to be some big fancy marketing initiative, but if you're not speaking to clients or to candidates through their lens, you're speaking at them. And no one wants to be talked at. They want to participate in whatever this job is going to be. So you should talk with them or to them, or better, through them. Like, imagine the candidate that you want and speak to that person as though they are in the role. You know, like, what do they want to hear? What are they going to get out of this job? What are the challenges? What are the big things that they're going to do? Like, talk to that stuff. Don't say you need 3 to 5 years of experience with this and a PMP certificate. Like, who cares? That person is not important. The person who's going to solve the problems is important.
Yeah, I agree with Anthony in particular about visibility to the hiring manager. I put up a video of this a while back and said kind of the same thing. Just why can't you at least put that face on? If the person's going to report to the hiring manager, wouldn't you want to have that visibility right out front? You know, assuming you have the appropriate gates on the hiring manager. If they have Tourette's, maybe it's not a great idea, but at least give some visibility to what that person will experience on the ground.
Or someone on the team, right?
Or someone on the team. Yeah. Like that, when you asked that question, Alan, my gut was saying there's only two genres of people that should be contributing to that description: hiring manager and somebody doing the work, say in a peer capacity. And what's with here's one, Anthony, what's with the job descriptions that it's clearly a manager position, and then it's, by the way, also has to have an in-depth understanding of where to place the semicolons in 5 different languages. Do you really think this is all over the place right now? Maybe it's COVID, but it's like, do you even know what you're hiring for? Because guess what? The person who knows where the semicolons go in all of those 5 languages is probably not your next generation future leader of the company. So if you're looking for both, good luck. I don't know where he is or she is, maybe in the Bay Area, but you're not going to find him. So have fun. Like, have realistic expectations. I don't know who puts these things together, but it's like the purple squirrel, the fellow on LinkedIn today that was talking about the purple squirrel. That's actually what is being asked for. And a lot of these descriptions, no wonder you can't hire anyone.
Yeah, I think people have a real hard time breaking out of their own world or their own way of thinking. They think the world is just like me, only more so. So all I have to do is speak to the world as though I'm speaking to myself. And they're not actually speaking to themselves even authentically, because no one speaks authentically, or at least nobody. If you read a job description, you know that's not authentically written, because you would never meet someone who actually speaks like that from the heart, from the brain. It just doesn't happen. It goes through some sort of weird business Twilight Zone filter. It's like, here is the portal through which a job description, needs to be rendered unreadable and unenjoyable. What I like to do is actually give a job description to my kid, any of them. And I just say, try reading this. Just read this job description, then tell me what it is. And I've had them do that a few times, and they're like, okay, this seems to be a job for someone to fix computers. And then other times they're like, I have no idea. I can't even read most of the words in it. So it's a really funny exercise, to have a kid read a job description, because you realize how silly the whole thing is, because no person speaks like this. Yeah. It's not prose. It's not poetry. It's just this weird jargon thing that only exists in job descriptions. It's like its own language.
It feels like I'm reading the Onion satirical newspaper when I read some of these.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alan and I, we started a company a while back called Jargon, specifically to eliminate jargon from job descriptions. And the clients, they loved it, because we would just say, tell us about the job. And then they would say, well, I need this kind of person. This is what's going to happen. And we just ask some simple questions, and then we would rewrite it. And it would just be like a conversational thing. Sometimes we'd tell a story. Sometimes they were completely ridiculous. They were intentionally funny. Like I said, something like the database administrator 3 is is America's great pastime. My great grandfather was a database administrator 3 down in the coal mines, in West Virginia. But like, you can use humor in a job description. You can use personality. Your company isn't as dull and boring as the description. So why would you not incorporate that? Your culture should be present in the job description. It should be the first encounter that a candidate has with your culture.
Well, so let me ask you guys, when in the cases where you were rewriting those job descriptions, was it around long enough for you to see the results? Like, in general, what was the response that you got?
Yeah, it was very positive response. And most of the job descriptions that we rewrote, I can't think of any actually that we didn't rewrite that didn't get more applicants. So there was more traffic that came to those than the standard job description that they had us rewrite. And we would do a lot of A/B testing at that point in time too. So we would run their ad and we would run our ad, and our ad just invariably got more responses, more replies, and more qualified responses and applies.
What I found interesting was that some companies were all in, they loved it. And then other companies were like, no, I don't want to pay for that. Like, you don't want to pay to have a better job description to attract better candidates and a larger pool of more qualified candidates. You don't want that. Well, we just don't have the time. It's like,
well, Anthony, sometimes mediocre can be a goal by itself. I mean, you don't always want world class.
Right. Fine is good enough.
Fine is,
Yep. So you brought up a point earlier. Both of you guys brought up a point earlier about the fact that it's, it can be over the top with regards to just about everything. I mean, the verbiage can be over the top, but what about the marketing? I mean, if you've got horrible Glassdoor reviews, I've written articles on this, but if your company has awful Glassdoor reviews, how do you address that in your job descriptions? Like, should you call that out? Should you identify that? I mean, people know. So are you just hiding it if you don't put it out there? And what's the right way?
Well, I have a couple of ideas, but Corey, do you want to go first?
Corey wants you to go first. I can tell by the look on his face.
All right, I'll go first.
You go ahead, Anthony.
Okay. So it depends. So like anything else, it depends. You don't want to call out that you have bad reviews on Glassdoor, because if they didn't know that, then why tell them, right? But I would say during the hiring process, if you should say, hey, just so you know, we're aware of some negative reviews on Glassdoor. They were regarding this kind of problem, and we're working through it. One of the reasons we're hiring for this position is specifically to fix that feedback. You can say feedback is a gift, but if you don't respond to it, if you don't do anything with it, then what's the point? Then it's just hollow, pithy statement to say, like, we appreciate feedback. We want to hear from our employees. If you want to hear from your employees, you don't want to hear from them on Glassdoor. And if you don't respond to what they're saying on Glassdoor, then you don't actually care, And so I think it's a good signal for the candidate. But if you're really trying to address it, why not call that out in the description? You don't have to say we've gotten bad reviews on Glassdoor, but you can say we are looking to fix these problems. Like, that's never in a job description. It's never like, we have these 5 problems that this role needs to solve in the next 12, 18 months, right? You don't get that until you're in the interview. What are you trying to accomplish? What do you think you'll do in your first 90, 180 days, whatever? So I would say list the problems that that you're working through. And if the position is related to fixing those problems, use it to your advantage. Say, we are actively trying to fix this, and we are recruiting you to help us do that. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think it's honorable you don't have to admit your faults publicly, but admit that you are improving. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I have similar insight on that one. There's an old expression, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. So when I go into interview situations, I ask the question, I said, okay, what am I not hearing? Where are the skeletons? And I'll typically say it something like, okay, in my experience at a small and mid-sized startups, who have a PMO organization, for example, that it's very difficult to do roadmap planning and decompose it into an iteratively operating delivery team. Have you encountered these kind of obstacles, and what do they look like? That's my way of saying, now tell me where the skeletons are, because I know they're there. So to come back to the Glassdoor thing, I like what Anthony said. Even whether it's on Glassdoor or not, acknowledge where the challenges are, because if you don't, I know they're there. You're just not saying it, right? So what's better, to acknowledge them on the way in and say, hey, therefore we're looking for somebody with resilience to help us solve these problems, or to have them come in and have the person come in and quit in 6 months, shell shocked by the disaster zone that they have walked into, for example.
Right. And I don't know about you, Alan, but I know Corey and I are both, of the same mindset. Like, I want a hard problem to solve. Give me something to do. I want a mission, like I want purpose when I go to work. And if I know that there's a key problem that needs to be fixed and that I have a role in fixing that, awesome. How great is that? I know I'm good at like providing order in chaos. I know I'm good at human related problems. If the problems are like, oh, our database is a total disaster, I'm not the right person. But if that's a key problem to fix in this role, then that helps filter me out. Like when I read the description, I can be like, okay, well, seems like a cool company, but now is not the time. I might flag that company for my own purposes, like set up a job search agent to let me know when they're hiring for other roles. I think it's just good to admit that you're growing and demonstrate you have a growth mindset and that you want to improve. Don't think of it as like I'm admitting my failures or telling the world about my faults. The other side of that coin is I am admitting to the world that I'm trying to improve, that I want to grow, and that I want to hire people who can help fix these problems that we're going to work through, and it's going to make us better.
Right.
Yeah, that's a super interesting point, because that's a lost opportunity for the company right there. Right. You hear what Anthony just said. He's going to keep tabs on that company for future roles. Certainly no company that I'm familiar with keeps someone in the queue like that on their side. Right. But it's very much the minority of interviewed teams and so forth. For me, normally I have run into people who I would love to work with. Right. Okay. So the role might not work. The timing might not be right. I would do the same thing. I would say, hey, I would love to keep tabs on this company, stay in touch. The companies don't do that. Right? I don't know if the applicant tracking systems are too fragile and brittle, or if that's just not in the collective mindset. But I can count on the fingers of one hand, maybe any interview I've ever had at a company where it was just so dreadful that I would never want to set foot in the place or work with any of the people. It's just a matter of, okay, it's not a fit. No doesn't mean never. It just means not today. So it's a missed opportunity, I think, for a candidate pool for the company.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say if you meet someone that you wish you could have at your company, just ask them, hey, what do you look for in a job? And do that a few times, start getting some data. Then you can start catering to your market, your audience. Think of it as a marketing effort or an initiative. You are going to campaign to hire people, in a specific demographic that you like. They have these skills, they do these kinds of things, they've had this experience in the past, whatever it is. You want to reach them. And the best way to reach them is a targeted campaign. So that's why I think of a job description as a marketing effort. And I think if companies actually invested in their hiring process in this way, they'd save themselves so much time and money. But they don't look at HR processes like hiring and onboarding and that kind of thing as part of a longer term strategy, because we can still get lucky and find good candidates, or there's so many people on the market, or whatever. We're paying above market. They give themselves all these like excuses for not doing better when they could just as easily spend a few $1,000 more and run something well and really reach the great candidates that they want.
Yeah. What do you think? You'd mentioned early on in the conversation, Corey, kind of the structure of the job description, and it just seems like it's kind of, I think you both mentioned, it kind of looks like it's going through just this feeder system of this is how it's supposed to be laid out. I've been advising companies recently to really focus on the candidate. Like you said, Anthony, focus on what problem they're going to solve, what they're going to come in and immediately be able to impact. But I still, every day, I see job descriptions that start off with, this is who we are. And this is what is not about the candidate. It's about the company. It's about the job. How should they be structured, and what have you guys seen in your own travels of job descriptions that really catches your eye as far as how they're laid out?
Well, I definitely I like what Anthony said about stories. Now, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It could be situational. But speaking selfishly, if I look at this from a candidate standpoint, maybe it's me being around for a few years and seeing a lot of these. I pass by the company overview because it looks like it was written by the legal team, and I don't care. I'm not on the legal team. Lawyers don't build products. Sorry, lawyers. I don't read it. To me, it's what's in it for me, and any candidate would look at it that way. It really is sales. You really are selling and marketing. So what's in it for the candidate, right? This is why I encourage when people say, how do I attract talent to my company? I'd say, well, show up where the talent wants you. So get on the podcast, get out there as a leader and show yourself in your vulnerable self. Show your non-narcissistic leadership style, right? Expose the team that the candidate would want to work with in such a way that they would want to work with them. So I think when we say write it from a candidate's perspective, it's show the candidate what the benefit would be to them first, and then get into the specifics. Some people want to work for a disruptive organization, but if you're trying to disrupt an industry, say it out front, but say, okay, here's what you're going to get by participating in this. It's the hot tech. Remember the three things, right? Technical people like to have a clear purpose. They like to have some autonomy to work deep on the craft, and they like to have mastery of the technical domain. So if you can address those three things right up front in the job description, you're going to attract a lot more interest. And all the spreadsheet junk, put it at the end or make it some other stage in the process, right? So here's the opportunity we have a very clear vision. This is the way the teams work together. This is what our culture looks like. And you're going to get all these pluses. You get to work with whatever. Maybe it's DeFi, or it's blockchain or smart contracts, whatever is hot to the specific thing. Now it's got to be genuine. You have to really be doing it, right? But make it palatable to the candidate first, and then do all your corporate stuff way off in the distance. That's just the way I would like to see it.
I often think of selling anything that's popular, like a cell phone, a car, any sort of device, technology, whatever. When you see a car commercial, does it start out with 3.8 liter V8 4-door? What? No, it shows you like someone driving somewhere awesome, right? You want to be in that car. You want to be on that road. You want to be doing the donuts. You want to be like driving up that mountain. That's why car commercials are like that. It's only at the very end of the commercial, that it says all the specs and whatever, and then the lease options and blah, blah, blah. But our job descriptions are backwards. We do it the other way around. Here are all the specs. And maybe if you can get through the 8 rounds of interviews and you have the patience and tolerance and all that stuff, maybe you'll end up in the car. Wouldn't that be cool? No, that's like the worst way to do it. And that's what we do every damn day. So I would just say, give people something to want first. Yeah. Like Corey said, we are an industry leader, or we're number 2 in the market and we're chasing number 1. Or we have a brand new thing that's going to disrupt XYZ. Or we are providing millions of people with homes, or we have a vision of providing millions of people with solar panels on their homes, whatever it is. Like, excite them, give them something to want, and then you can get them to worry about whether they are a fit for it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I would suggest, you guys will laugh at this, but A company that used to do a really good job, I don't know about lately. They've changed quite a bit over the years, but used to do a really good job of attracting their avatar was old Porsche ads. Right? Begins with a dream. Or they had some really, really good from the 70s and 80s. They had some amazing ads. And if you didn't gravitate towards the ads, you weren't their avatar. That simple. And they're really good ways of pulling the passion into what they're trying to sell, which is, sports car performance. But and that requires you to be very clear on your purpose. If you don't have a clear purpose, well, you're probably not bringing people in who want to be at a place with clear purpose. So it's a self-defeating prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can say, my company's not cool enough or something like that. You can give yourself excuses, but why would you be getting out of bed to do what you're doing if it wasn't cool enough? Like it's meeting you somewhere. Where is that place? And Steve Jobs said to John Scully when he was hiring him as CEO, do you want to change the world or do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? When he was CEO at Coca-Cola. So, but now you look at Coke and you see a Coke commercial and it's like some person playing basketball and then they drink Coke later. Like they're still not selling Coke. They're selling the idea of doing something cool, and then Coke is a part of it. The iPod, it wasn't carrying thousands of songs in your pocket. It was the white headphones and the dancing characters and whatever, like those silhouettes. You got to be a part of that. And then they told you what it specifically was. So tell people what they're going to be a part of by applying and make it feel like this is an exclusive opportunity, like Basecamp does. They're like, hey, we are actually opening a new position. We do this very rarely. We are a very highly sought after company. We pay really well. We've written these books about our culture. We're very transparent, blah, blah, blah. They sell the vision. They sell the cool factor. I know Corey said he's got the 3 things for engineers, but I've also heard the 3 things for engineers are they want to be rich, lazy, and cool. So, you can try selling that too. There might be some other vision that you can sell a developer or a technical staff member on, but it is not going to be copy pasta. No one wants to eat that crap.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you guys enough. I think the expert opinions that you guys have on this topic certainly shine through big time, and hopefully it was helpful. The only challenge, I'll fix it on the back end, but we were not streaming to LinkedIn. We were only streaming to YouTube and to Facebook just now.
I checked the site and I didn't see it, but I thought I needed to reload and I was afraid to
says waiting for broadcast.
Yeah, we had probably had a few people waiting to watch it, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I need to jump, guys. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I knew you had to go, buddy. I appreciate you being here. Thanks, Corey.
See you, Corey.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.